Mamma, I'm sorry. No one told me you were here.
Such a glare. I feel as if I were on stage at the Gaiety.
We're used to it. I do wish you'd let me install it in the Dower house. It's very convenient. The man who manages the generator could look after yours as well.
No, I couldn't have electricity in the house. I wouldn't sleep a wink. All those vapours seeping about.
Even Cora won't have it in the bedroom. She did wonder about the kitchens, but I couldn't see the point.
Well, before anyone joins us, I'm glad of this chance for a little talk. I gather Murray was here today?
News travels fast. Yes, I saw him, and he's not optimistic that there's anything we can do.
I refuse to believe it.
Be that as it may, it's a fact.
But to lose Cora's fortune,
Really, Mamma, you know as well as I do that Cora's fortune is not Cora's fortune anymore. Thanks to Papa, it is now part of the estate. And the estate is entailed to my heir. That is it. That is all of it.
Robert, dear, I don't mean to sound harsh.
You may not mean to, but I bet you will.
24 years ago, you married Cora against my wishes for her money. Give it away now. What was the point of your peculiar marriage in the first place?
If I were to tell you she'd made me very happy, would that stretch belief?
It's not why you chose her. Above all those other girls who could have filled my shoes so easily.
If you must know, when I think of my motives for pursuing Cora, I'm ashamed. There's no need to remind me of them.
Don't you care about Downton?
What do you think? I've given my life to Downton. I was born here, and I hope to die here. I claim no career beyond the nurture of this house and the estate. It is my third parent and my fourth child. Do I care about it? Yes, I do care.
Hope I don't hear sounds of a disagreement.
Oh, is that what they call discussion in New York?
Well, I'm glad you're fighting. I'm glad somebody's putting up a fight. You're not really fighting, Granny, are you, Papa?
Your grandmother merely wishes to do the right thing, and so do I.
Dinner is served, my lady.
He feels he'd be betraying his duty if Downton were lost because of him.
Well, I'm going to write to Murray.
He won't say anything different.
Well, we have to start somewhere. Our duty is to Mary. Well, give him a date for when Mary's out of mourning. No one wants to kiss a girl in black.
Yes, thank you.
This is Carson. We'd all be lost without him. Mamma, may I present Matthew Crawley and Mrs. Crawley, my mother, Lady Grantham.
What should we call each other?
Well, we could always start with Mrs. Crawley and Lady Grantham.
Come into the drawing room and we can make all the proper introductions. Thank you, guys.
Do you think you'll enjoy village life? It'll be very quiet after life in the city.
Even Manchester.
I'm sure I'll find something to keep me busy. You might like the hospital. What sort of hospital is it? How many beds?
Well, it isn't really a hospital.
Don't let Dr. Clarkson hear you. He thinks it's second only to St. Thomas's.
It's a cottage hospital, of course, but quite well equipped. Who pays for it?
Oh, good. Let's talk about money.
My father gave the building and an endowment to run it. In a way, he set up his own memorial.
But how splendid.
And Mr. Lloyd George's new insurance measures will help.
Please don't speak that man's name. We are about to eat.
I will hold it steady and you can help yourself, sir.
Oh, don't worry. There are plenty of hours in the day. And, of course, I'll have the weekend.
We'll discuss this later. We mustn't bore the ladies.
What is a weekend?
I thought you didn't like him.
Well, so what? I have plenty of friends I don't like.
Would you want Mary to marry one of them?
Why do you always have to pretend to be nicer than the rest of us?
Perhaps I am.
Then pity your wife, whose fortune must go to this odd young man who talks about weekends and jobs. If Mary were to marry him, then all would be resolved.
I've been paid the compliment of a visit.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Cousin Matthew.
Afternoon.
We were just saying how charming this room is now.
It always seemed rather dark when my mother-in-law lived here. Then she made everything rather dark.
So,
No, thank you.
have you been able to explore the village?
Indeed, I have. And I thought the hospital a great credit to your father's memory. But I'm afraid the good doctor and I did not see eye to eye.
Oh, you amaze me.
He's treating one of your tenants, John Drake, for dropsy, but seems reluctant to embrace some of the newer treatments.
Drake is a good man and far too young to die, but I suppose the doctor knows his business.
Not as well as Mrs. Crawley, apparently.
By the way, if ever you want to ride, just let Lynch know and he'll sort it out for you.
Oh, Papa, Cousin Matthew doesn't ride.
I'm right.
And do you hunt?
No, I don't hunt.
I dare say there's not much opportunity in Manchester.
Whose country was being ravaged by storms, and in the end he decided the only way to appease the gods was to sacrifice his eldest daughter to a hideous sea monster. So they chained her naked to a rock.
Really? Mary, we'll all need our smelling salts in a minute. I'm sorry, Mary was rather sharp or something.
I doubt Cousin Mary and I are destined to be close friends. I don't blame her. Her father's home and her mother's fortune are to be passed to me. It's very harsh.
What would you say if the entail was set aside in Mary's favour?
I should try to accept it with as good a grace as I could muster.
Would you? Oh, good evening, Taylor.
Good evening, my lady.
Thank you.
I don't want to exaggerate. She's been very generous in many ways.
Generous. To instruct you in your own practice?
She may even have a point, but it does not seem to me realistic.
Well, nor is it. Put an end to her meddling. I am your president, and I say get rid of her.
Will that not be awkward? I gather she's planning to stay in the village for the foreseeable future.
No one can foresee the future, Doctor. Not you, not I, and certainly not Mrs. Crawley. We're running out of options. The lawyers I write to only huff and puff. They echo Murray and say nothing can be done.
Well, they don't want the bother of opposing him.
Oh, precisely.
I wish Mary wasn't so confident it could all be put right.
Meanwhile, we have to watch that dreadful woman parade around the village as if she owned it.
I think she means well.
Meaning well is not enough. Poor Dr. Clarkson. What has he done to deserve that termagant?
I think he's in for an uncomfortable afternoon.
Why?
On my way here, I saw her go into the hospital. She looked extremely determined.
Not as determined as I am.
I have the...
Please, no, let me pass. I must see the doctor. At once.
Your ladyship.
It's just as I thought. Dr. Clarkson, tell me you will not permit this amateur to influence your professional opinion.
Amateur?
My dear woman, do not let them bully you. They'll not disturb the peace of your husband's last hours, not if I can help it.
But that's just it, my lady. I don't want them to be his last hours. Not if there's a chance. Please, Doctor, do what you must.
As
Steady.
Yep, all right. Yep. Nice and steady.
As president of this hospital, I feel I must...
Valve.
shall bring this to the attention of the board.
You're doing very well.
Have you no pity?
Adrenaline. Quickly, quickly. His heart stopped.
Oh.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
My dear. You don't have to.
My doing. It's all Mary's own work. But I think we should encourage it.
Brangsom's a dull dog, but I don't suppose that matters.
Did you know his wife had died?
He only ever talks about racing.
Cora is right. Mary won't take Matthew Crawley, so we'd better get her settled before the bloom is quite gone off the rose.
Is the family an old one?
Older than yours, I imagine.
Old enough.
And there's plenty of money.
Really?
Mamma, you've already looked him up in the stud books and made inquiries about the fortune. Don't pretend otherwise. Are you afraid someone will think you're American if you speak openly?
I doubt it'll come to that.
Shall I ring for tea?
No, not for me. I'm eating Cripps at 5. I'll see you at dinner.
You don't seem very pleased.
I'm pleased. It's not brilliant, but I'm pleased.
So?
I don't want Robert to use a marriage as an excuse to stop fighting for Mary's inheritance.
It won't make any difference. I don't think he has the slightest intention of fighting as it is. The price of saving Downton is to accept Matthew Crawley as his heir.
What about you?
I don't dislike Matthew. In fact, I rather admire him.
Is that sufficient reason to give him your money?
Well, of course not.
Then there's nothing more to be said. Are we going to have tea or not? I don't understand. Why would she want to be a secretary?
She wants a different life.
But why? I should far prefer to be a maid in a large and pleasant house than work from dawn till dusk in a cramped and gloomy office. Don't you agree, Carson?
I do, my lady.
Why are we talking about this? What does it matter?
It matters that the people that live and work here are content.
Of course. We should be helping Gwen if that's what she wants.
I agree. Surely we must all encourage those less fortunate to improve their lot where they can.
Not if it isn't in their best interests.
Isn't the maid a better judge of that than we are?
What do you say?
The Dowager Countess.
Oh, my dears. Is it really true? I can't believe it. Last night, he looked so well. Of course, would happen to a foreigner. It's typical.
Don't be ridiculous.
I'm not being ridiculous. No Englishman would dream of dying in someone else's house. Especially someone they didn't even know.
Oh, Granny, even the English aren't in control of everything.
Well, I hope we're in control of something, if only ourselves.
But we're not. Don't you see that? We're not in control of anything at all.
Edith, go and tell Mary to come back at once and apologize to her grandmother.
No, leave her alone. She's had a shock. We all have. Just let her rest. No, just the ticket. Nanny always said sweet tea was the thing for frayed nerves. So why it has to be sweet, I couldn't tell you. How about some house parties?
She's been asked to one next month by Lady Anne McNair.
Oh, it's a terrible idea. She doesn't know anyone under 100.
I might send her over to visit my aunt. She could get to know New York.
Oh, I don't think things are quite that desperate. Poor Mary. She's been terribly down in the mouth lately.
She was very upset by the death of poor Mr. Pamuk.
Why? She didn't know him. One can't go to pieces at the death of every foreigner. We'd all be in a state of collapse whenever we opened a newspaper. Oh, no. Of course, Mary's main difficulty is that her situation is unresolved. I mean, is she an heiress or isn't she?
The entail's unbreakable. Mary cannot inherit.
No, what we need is a lawyer who's decent and honour-bound to look into it. I think perhaps I know just the man.
Someone to see you, Mr. Crawley.
There's nothing in my diary.
It's Lady Grantham.
Well, in that case, show her in at once.
Cousin Cora, to what do I owe the...
Oh, I hope I'm not a disappointment. I'll pay you the compliment that I do not believe you wish to inherit just because nobody's investigated properly.
No, but...
Nor can Murray accuse you of making trouble when you're the one who will suffer most from a discovery.
You're right that I don't wish to benefit at Mary's expense from an ignorance of the law.
Putting it bluntly, do you think Robert has thrown in the towel prematurely? Good heavens, what am I sitting on?
A swivel chair.
Oh, another modern brainwave?
Not very modern. They were invented by Thomas Jefferson.
Why does every day involve a fight with an American?
I'll fetch a different one.
No. I'm a good sailor.
It will depend on the exact terms of the entail and of the deed of gift when Cousin Cora's money was transferred to the estate.
That is all I ask, to understand the exact terms.
Would you like me to ask Branson to bring the car round, my lady?
Where's Robert? He can't have been drinking port since we left. He'd be under the table by now.
His lordship's in the library.
All alone? Oh, how sad.
No, he...
We can say goodbye to Papa for you, Granny.
He's what?
He's with Mr. Crawley, my lady.
The question is, what do I say to Cousin Violet?
Oh, don't worry about that. I can handle her.
Really? Well, if you can, you must have learned to very recently.
Mrs. Crawley. How nice.
You're busy, we can come back later.
Molesley, what are you doing here? Are you ill?
Poor Mr. Molesley. How's it going?
The solution doesn't seem to make it any better.
My imagination's running riot.
I've got erysipelas, Your Ladyship.
Oh, I am sorry.
Mrs. Crawley tells me she's recommended nitrate of silver and tincture of steel.
Well, is she making a suit of armour?
But I take it there's been no improvement.
Not really.
And you're sure it's erysipelas?
That is Mrs. Crawley's diagnosis.
What it is to have medical knowledge.
It has its uses.
I see your father has been making changes at home.
He has, my lady. He's got no use for the herb garden now my mother's gone, so he's turned it to grass.
And you've been helping him?
I have.
Grubbing out the old rue hedge.
How did you know that?
Because this is not erysipelas. This is a rue allergy. If Molesley wears gardening gloves, it'll be gone in a week. Please don't think we're ungrateful for your enthusiasm, Mrs. Crawley, but there comes a time when things are best left to the professionals. And now I really must go. Good day.
Thank you, Your Ladyship.
When do you put that magnificent display of prizes on show?
Oh, not till the day itself.
I remember a superb cup from last year.
The Grantham Cup. It was donated by the late Lord Grantham for the best bloom in the village.
And who won it?
I did.
Well done. And the year before?
Her Ladyship won that one, too.
Heavens! How thrilling. And before that?
You've met my father.
Good afternoon, Mr. Molesley. What are you showing this year?
Oh, this and that. Only the finest roses in the village.
Really? What an achievement.
It's a wonderful area for roses. We're very lucky. We'll see some beautiful examples right across the show, won't we, Mr. Molesley?
If you say so, Your Ladyship.
thought I was in for another telling off about the hospital.
No, this time it's the flower show. I've been to see old Mr. Molesley's garden, and his roses are the most beautiful I've ever laid eyes on.
Go on.
You may not know it, but I believe the committee feel obliged to give you the cup for the best bloom as a kind of local tradition.
No, I do not know that. I thought I usually won the prize for best bloom in the village because my gardener had grown the best bloom in the village.
Yes, but you don't usually win, do you? You always win.
Yes, I have been very fortunate in that regard.
But surely when Mr. Molesley's garden is so remarkable and he's so very proud of his roses...
You talk of Mr. Molesley's pride. What about my gardener's pride? Is he to be sacrificed on the altar of Molesley's ambition?
All I'm asking is that you release them from any obligation to let you in. Why not just tell them to choose whichever flower is best?
But that is precisely what they already know and do. You seem well prepared.
They'll add a few more flowers before we open in the morning, but I think we're nearly there.
Do look at Mr. Molesley's display. He's worked so hard.
Rather marvellous, aren't they?
Lovely. Well done, Mr. Molesley.
Thank you, my lady.
I think everyone is to be congratulated. It's splendid.
But do look at these roses. Have you ever seen the like?
My dear, Mrs. Crawley believes I'm profiting from an unfair advantage.
Oh?
She feels in the past I've been given the cup merely as a matter of routine rather than merit.
That's rather ungallant, Mother. I'm sure when we see Cousin Violet's roses, it'll be hard to think they could be bettered.
Hard, but not impossible.
You are quite wonderful the way you see room for improvement wherever you look. I never knew such reforming zeal.
I take that as a compliment.
I must have said it wrong.
You should come and see the rose garden. He could give us some ideas.
Old Molesley's a champion, or he would be in a fairer world.
Don't you start.
I'm afraid I've been annoying Cousin Violet on that score.
If Molesley deserves the first prize for his flowers, the judges will give it to him.
They wouldn't dare.
Really, Robert, you make me so annoyed. Isn't it possible I should win the thing on merit?
I think the appropriate answer to that, Mamma, is yes, dear.
And now the Grantham Cup for the best bloom in the village. And the Grantham Cup is awarded to... Mr. William Molesley, for his Comtesse Cabarrus Rose.
Bravo! Well done! Bravo!
Congratulations, Mr. Molesley.
Thank you, my lady. Thank you for letting me have it.
It's the judges who decide these things, not me. But very well done.
Bravo, Mamma. That must have been a real sacrifice.
And bravely born.
I don't know what everyone's on about, but all is well, my dear. All is well.
In case there was trouble.
I want to do some canvassing. The by-election isn't far off.
Canvassing?
Oh, it's quite safe. You're in a group and you knock on doors.
Yes, I know what canvassing is.
I think that Sybil is...
What? Are you canvassing too? Or would you rather take in washing?
I was only going to say that Sybil is entitled to her opinions.
No. She isn't until she is married. Then her husband will tell her what her opinions are.
Oh, Cranny.
I knew you wouldn't approve.
Which presumably is why you all hid your plans from me.
Does this mean you won't be presented next month?
Certainly not. Why should it?
Well, I doubt I'd expect to curtsy to their majesties in June when I'd been arrested at a riot in May. But then I'm old. Things may be different now.
She hasn't been arrested, and it wasn't a riot.
But it might be next time.
There will not be a next time.
Susan Flincher.
What does she say?
Well, prepare yourself for the worst. Not the first page. My poor niece never uses one word when 20 will do. Start there. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to have to tell you that Hugh has heard a vile story about your granddaughter, Mary.
Sorry. She's thrilled. Now, first I must ask, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Is any of this true? I see. Some of it is true. How much? Oh, dear.
She didn't drag him.
I wondered about that. I mean, obviously Susan's forgotten the distance between the girls' rooms and the bachelor's corridor.
She couldn't manage it alone.
So how did she do it?
I helped her. She woke me up and I helped her.
Well, I always thought this family might be approaching dissolution. I didn't know dissolution was already upon us. Does Robert know?
No, and he isn't going to. Of course, it was terribly wrong. It was all terribly wrong, but I didn't see. What else?
Please. I can't listen to your attempts to try and justify yourself.
I know this is hard for you to hear. God knows it was hard for me to live through. But if you expect me to disown my daughter, I'm afraid you will be disappointed. Good day.
The Dowager Countess, my lady.
Good afternoon, my dear.
Good afternoon.
There's no need to be so prim. I come in peace. Shall I sit here? Now, I've been thinking. I confess, I do not know if I would have had strength, mentally or physically, to carry a corpse the length of this house. But I hope I would have done. You were quite right. When something bad happens, there's no point in wishing it had not happened. The only option is to minimize the damage.
Or try to. But if the Flinchers have got hold of
I've written to Susan. I said it was a story made up by Mr. Pamuk's enemies to discredit him. Even if she doesn't believe me, she won't tell in case it reflects badly on her. The ambassador is dangerous. But then, how many people really go to the Turkish embassy?
It only takes one.
Well, I mean, it just can't be helped. We can't have him assassinated, I suppose.
Robert still doesn't suspect.
Oh, I should hope not. No, our only way forward is to get Mary settled as soon as possible.
I have news on that score. Matthew has proposed.
My. Has she said yes?
She hasn't said anything yet, except that she's going to have to tell him about Pamuk.
For heaven's sake, why?
She thinks to keep it secret would be dishonorable.
She reads too many novels. I mean, one way or another, everyone goes down the aisle with half the story hidden. The question is, will she accept Matthew?
I'm not sure.
Well, if she doesn't, we'll just have to take her abroad. In these moments, you can normally find an Italian who isn't too picky. We'll give her till the start of the grouse.
Very well. If she turns Matthew down, we'll take her to Rome in the autumn.
It's official.
Thank you for not turning against her. I know that you have rules, and when people break them, you find it hard to forgive. I understand that, and I respect it.
In this case, Mary has the trump card.
What?
Mary is family. And she's not been in touch with Cousin Matthew.
Not that I've heard.
Wonderful news, of course. You must look after yourself.
Don't worry, O'Brien has me wrapped in silken feathers.
You're lucky. I have a horrible feeling Simmons is about to hand in her notice. She's looking very fidgety lately. And I saw her hurrying to meet the postman.
Oh, you poor thing. Is there anything worse than losing one's maid?
I mean, why would you want to leave me? I've been as gentle as a lamb. Most of the time.
What did we miss?
Nothing much. Although you'd have had more invitations than I did.
Have you thought about Matthew?
Of course. But Aunt Rosamond
No,
said...
she's written to me I should pay no attention.
But Granny, she has got a point. Mary can't be completely naive.
I don't need your help, thank you.
Mary, listen to me. If you take Matthew now, when his whole future is at risk, he will love you to the end of his days.
Why, Granny, you're a romantic.
I've been called many things, but never that.
And what happens if the baby's a boy and Matthew loses everything?
Mary can always change her mind.
But I can't do that to Matthew. It's not how we are together.
Oh.
No, I'm going upstairs to help Anna unpack.
I'll come with you.
Edith, why don't you go too?
Sir Anthony Strallan was at Lady Wren's party. He asked after you.
Is she really serious about him?
Any port in a storm. Oh, by the way, I was right about my maid. She's leaving to get married. Well, how can she be so selfish?
I do sympathize. Robert's always wanting me to get rid of O'Brien, but I can't face it. Anyway, she's so fond of me.
Well, I thought Simmons was fond of me. What am I to do?
Why don't I put an advertisement in the Lady? It's always the best place to start.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you. I really must be going. Now, don't let Mary wait for the baby before she gives Matthew her answer.
I'm sure it's another girl.
I know those men of the moral high ground. If she won't say yes when he might be poor, he won't want her when he will be rich.
Oh.
First electricity in our telephones. Sometimes I feel as if I were living in an H.G. Wells novel. But the young are also calm about change, aren't they? Look at Matthew. I do admire him. Do you? What have I done wrong now?
Oh, please. Don't pretend Mary's sudden reluctance can't be traced back to you.
Well, I shall pretend it. I told her to take him. Your quarrel is with my daughter Rosamond, not me. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.